And one of the things I like to point out as a visual for people who are trying to learn how to be true to themselves in their feelings without hurting people is that there is one way that you can reveal, and that is like sideways, like, fuck, my heart hurts. This is so painful. I can't deal. I don't know how to do relationships. Even saying, like, you can even say, you did this and it hurt me. So it's like you're pouring out your emotion to your side. Maybe you're offering up to God rather than directly into somebody. This is called projection, not expression. You did this. You made me feel this way. How fucking dare you? It gets sharp and it's energetically, it's moving from my body into your body. And so it's no surprise that then people's shields pop up to guard, because now all of a sudden there's this very powerful stream of quote expression that's going into their body that people have to literally start to put up a guard so that they don't take it in.
Welcome to the Soulful Ambition podcast. I'm your host, Analisa Lemming, Broadway actor turned coach for big dreamers. This is a show about choosing to live inside out, becoming sourced from within, and then acting upon your deepest longings. From starting your dream business to starring on Broadway, from sacred activism to being a radiant, aligned parent and everything in between, we will walk the razor's edge of these two seemingly contradictory words, soulful ambition. This podcast is here to awaken the longing in your chest that is so big it threatens to swallow you whole. Because the manifestation of your true desires is your destined path and the medicine and the magic that the world needs. This is Soulful Ambition. Hello, welcome back to another episode of Soulful Ambition. I am so excited for you to hear this episode today with Madelyn Moon. It is beautiful and powerful. But before we dive in, I'd like to tell you about the upcoming workshop. I am coming to New York City. I don't know when I will be back. This is the first time I've ever done anything like this in person. So I know it's going to be a magical event. And if you have the space on May 1st from 2 to 6 p.m., I would love to see you. It's going to be a limited event. There are 30 spots. So if you're listening to this, the early bird will be up until April 15th. And then if there are still spots available, price will go up a little bit. And it is on May 1st, as I said. So let me tell you a little bit about this workshop and who I am co-facilitating it with. And if it is singing to your soul, grab your spot. I would love to see you and meet you and hug you in person and go on this massive journey together. So it's called Unlocking the Power of Desire, Harnessing Sexual Energy and Soulful Ambition to Achieve Your Deepest Longings. And what's so fantastic is that Lauren and I come from different angles, but we really connected over this word desire. Lauren is a certified holistic sex educator, and she talks about desire and pleasure on a daily basis. And I come at desire from my deepest soulful desires, my deepest longings, my big wild dreams. And this overlap of desire is really interesting because sexual energy is creative energy. It's life force energy. It's our vitality. And so if we can unlock that in a way that we can also apply it to our biggest, wildest dreams and everything in between, I think that there is something that will open up rather than keeping that separate. It's the same and it's beautiful and it's not just for the bedroom. It's not just to share with a partner. It is our aliveness. It's our Shakti. It's the juice of life. So you can just hear me talking about it gets me jazzed. I am let's go. This energy that I'm feeling just describing it, this is where I want to create my podcasts from. This is where I want to create the workshop from. And I am, don't worry. This is where I want to come and bring this energy to my coaching clients. I'm also getting ready to go do some singing in the next month. And it's I want to tap into this energy, my passion, my life force when I go on stage. It's also the energy I want to bring to my babies and bring to my husband and all the different flavors of it, right? To be able to rewild this aspect of myself. So In these 4 hours, my friends, we are going to do so much. We're going to do embodiment practices, inner journey work, journal prompts. There'll be time for some, individual self-reflection as well as group discussion. And you will leave with a cohesive vision of bringing these energies together for your future, for your biggest dreams. We'll do a lovely ritual to ground in the whole thing. So May 1st, it's $135 with the early bird pricing, and that goes up after the 15th to $175. So if there's a spot available and it is meant for you, grab it, and I will see you in person so soon. All right. If you enjoyed today's episode, and you can give us a subscribe, share the podcast, write a review, your energy back to the podcast just means the world if that speaks to you as well. All right, enjoy the episode. So much love. I'm so excited to welcome Madelyn Moon to the studio today. Madelyn is a leading voice in the world of feminine-masculine relationships, devoted to serving women in liberating their expressive artistic hearts with themselves, with partners, and with the world. Her work and story have been featured in hundreds of podcasts, as well as various publications such as BBC, The Huffington Post, Teen Vogue, Thought Catalog, Nylon Magazine, The Daily Mail, Vice, Greatest, Men's Health, People, and ABC News Nightline. Madelyn teaches live programs, workshops, and courses both online and in person, and is the author of the best-selling book, Artist of Love. I'm so excited to have you here. I've been following you on Instagram first for a very long time, got on your newsletter, have been listening to you on podcasts, got your book, and I just thank you for the work that you're putting into the world, first and foremost.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's so great to be here. I've taken a little bit of a break from podcasts for like a year and a half. So it's really nice to reemerge and to be able to connect with new people in this way. It's really special to my heart.
Would you just start by sharing, for those who don't know you at all, like the version of you today that you feel most inspired to share, part of your story, the work that you're doing now that is most inspiring?
Yeah. Yes. So every time I'm asked that question about my story, I try to find a new origin of like where to begin with that. But what I will say again, since this is kind of a coming back full circle into the podcast world, and it's been a while since I shared some of my OG story. Who I am today is an advocate of deep incarnation of all the different faces of the feminine, every single one. And that includes unveiling the parts of us that are sticky and the parts of us that are raw and the parts of us that are fucking messy and wild and fierce and seductive. And that is not how I was raised. I think most of us, this is not, I don't think any child was like, I was raised to be the most empowered version of myself. Like we choose different karmic contracts so that we can become who we are meant to be. If we were born with those things, then we would not become who we are meant to be. There's no threshold to cross. So yeah, I was raised in a very just like reputation obsessed family. And they tried their best, but there was so much focus on reputation and perfection. And there was an underbelly. There's an underbelly to my ancestry and my lineage and the way women were supposed to be and the way men were supposed to be. And I grew up just incredibly anal and OCD and eating disorders and obsession with perfection and like putting everything into its specific place, literally. Like, I mean, I thought in my brain, everything was in terms of numbers, how many steps I walked or calories I ate or how much I weighed or the time that it's just so analytical, logical, structured in a way that was incredibly unhealthy and very disordered, kind of giving like a light version here, but it was really, really dark and dangerous actually as a kid in the way that I lived until I started to really, it was like until I started to really melt in the breakdowns of what it's like to carry all of that. And once I started to fall apart freely, without judgment, without trying to control or manipulate my falling apart. Once I started being really honest with what I was carrying, like the weight of living in that way, my body started to kind of shapeshift. I began to become a little bit more soft, a little bit more fluid, a little bit more open, um, and then eventually more artistic in the realm of relationships and love. And my creativity just started blossoming and blooming the more that I let go of that tightly knit, obsessive compulsive way of living. And what I do today is I taught relationship and polarity, specifically polarity, for a few years, feminine and masculine energetics. But even in that world, I started to feel like there were pieces that were missing. It's just, even then, it can be another kind of dogma. Not to say feminine, masculine is dogma, but it can be. And I started to feel like, so I just went from this way to be to then this way to be. And what if there is a totally expansive, non-structured, messy, gargoyle-y, fairy, like ancient, new way to live? And you will relate to this, obviously. Once I was in the polarity world, really practicing embodied expression. Like, how do I show expression with my body? Not just be in the fall apart, but how do I actually take what I feel and show it, reveal it in a very stoic world where mostly women are taught to not show things? How do I just live my life as always showing, always revealing? How freeing would that be, considering where I came from? And that's what led me into the acting space, which I am by no means I do not have many years of acting. I don't even consider myself an actor, but I did go into that space for a little bit of time, enough to realize, oh my God, this is magical. This is the piece that's missing from relationship studies. Like, what if we were actors in love and we got to try on all these different archetypes and flavors and discover more of ourselves through the process of those characters or archetypes or monologues that we practice, and then take it into our love life? So to summarize all of this, make this long story still long, I really focus on expression and liberation and women who are desiring to manifest kings and manifest deep partnerships full of massive amounts of play, but also massive amounts of depth, and find more of themselves constantly in this one lifetime coming online through the process of relationship.
I love it so much. I love it. And when I first started working primarily as a coach with artists, with actors, it's amazing how I found, like, they know what their character is feeling, but when I ask them in their life what they're feeling, there was such a disconnect, even in like daily life, for these artists that step on stage or in an audition room and are these vessels and can take their instrument in so many different places, but in our own lives, our idea of what our reality is and our limitations are suddenly just our imagination. And so I love this. I think it's brilliant. Your kind of like your modality that you've created. And gosh, there's a million directions I want to go in this moment. Let's see. Oh, okay. So I guess I bet we'll go back into that, but let me start by asking about this idea of expression and all the sides of ourselves and all the things that come up. And I'm curious, for you personally, how this has worked for you, or how you use this in actually the creation of your business and like your work as opposed to a relationship. I'm curious what that looks like, or has looked like.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because, okay, I'll start here. Where it comes into my business is my, you could say marketing, but it's not really, I don't go into it with marketing. It's more my art. Like my art, my quote, marketing is my art. That's, I don't know if it's like a projection projector human design thing, or if it is just an artist thing or a feminine embodiment thing. But I I really needed to have a platform to be able to create comedy specifically out of this fucking world that we live in and out of the shit that is just insane that we deal with in the spiritual community, honestly. And in dating, I remember when I was dating, especially when I was single, I would just have these experiences that were just so ridiculous. Kind of like, I'd be like, is anyone watching this? Like, are you watching my life? Like, this is so weird that I went on this first date and then that happened. And then he said that, or it's date 5. And then he said just like really strange things. And instead of going the direction of, oh, he's a narcissist, all men, blah, blah, blah. I didn't want to do that, but I did want to take that and make something with it to help me transmute the experience, alchemize it, turn it into something, not to get rid of it, because we don't make art to get rid of things. We make art to integrate things. So I would have these experiences also with friend groups. And then I'd be like, what do I do with this thing that just happened? And I started to make comedy reels on Instagram right when reels came out. So when Instagram only had 30 seconds of reel space. Some people remember that. Some people weren't on it quite yet, but it was 30 seconds. And in that 30 seconds, I needed to fit in a full skit to show the experience I just had and make it funny. Because I didn't want to waste people's time watching something that was like going to take them down, which I think a lot of people do on TikTok when they just like talk about this is bad, this is bad. It's just like feeding the hungry ghost of bad experiences. And it makes me feel icky. And so I still wanted to make something with it, but I wanted to create comedy because I have a very comedic side that doesn't often come out in my work because my work is quite deep and wouldn't say heavy, but it's just very grounded. And I wanted to bring the part of me in here that is funny. And it's fortunate and also a little unfortunate that that part of me really only comes out in one-on-one connections or by myself. Something about being by myself, my comedian comes out the most. So it's why I probably couldn't be a stand-up comedian. But I started filming these things and people, I mean, I skyrocketed in my Instagram following just from making these very small little skits of serious topics made funny. So as an artist, that's been a pretty big form of expression for me because my work is not the place where I express, that's the place where I hold the space. And so that might be a misconception some people have about very expressive teachers or feminine teachers. The best teachers are not the ones that are inside of the container doing the emoting because that polarizes the rest of the group. Now you're the one expressing and they're the one holding. So when you are holding these spaces, as you know, you're really in that role of holder and guide and teacher. So it's not really, people come into my things, I'm not expressing left and right. I'm really showing the ways and giving the tools for that. But on my platform where I'm just making stuff, that's really how I get to play and how I get to feed the part of myself that wants to alchemize the weird ass things that happen in my life and turn it into something and not just ignore it, but kind of like put a stamp in it. So that this thing existed and here's what I made out of it.
Yeah, I love that. I love what came to mind as you were speaking about that is kind of bringing in, I don't know if it feels this way, but from out here, like the fool archetype of like, what if I didn't take this all so seriously? Because that's what we can do. And that's kind of what you were describing. You know, you're having these dates and it could go into this doomsday despair place. And it's like, I think I heard recently that the fool archetype is the antidote to perfectionism. And that and that fear of showing our messiness and not it having to be so perfect, which is something you talked about being a part of your upbringing. And your reels are hilarious. And I hope that everybody will click on the link below because I'll definitely link to them because they're so good. And okay, so and then what about in regard to? I'm curious. I'm going to stay in this place because we're in this soulful ambition container right now. And to me, soulful ambition is like deepest longings, sacred desires. And if that feels like building something, which is funny because the email that I wrote to you had to do with the opposite of that. But, building a business, building a career, and these like big, wild, audacious dreams. And I'm curious how like expression, particularly of the bits that we don't enjoy, like our scarcity, our fear, our insecurities, like how could that serve? How could we use that as a tool?
For ourselves or for publicly, like using our scarcity
For
to show people,
ourselves,
or for
like
ourselves?
for ourselves. Yeah. So I'm sitting here and I'm relaunching a podcast, or somebody's sitting with their novel and they're stuck and they're sitting in fear and mired in self-doubt, and we tend to want to judge that part of ourselves or fix that part. I'm curious, like, how could we be an artist with that aspect of ourselves?
Yeah, I believe that some of the best art we will ever create is from our darkness. And one of the biggest tools that an artist can have is to know how to turn on the light in the darkness. Not the light where everything becomes light, but just like turn on, like light a candle. How do you light a candle in the darkness just to see the path through? And this is not to be confused with being a struggling artist is the only way to be, or that you need to be in darkness in order to be a good artist, or that the minute you go through a hard time, you need to create something out of it to make it worth it. Those are all those are all beliefs that I think chain a lot of artists, that if they're not struggling or they're not in heartbreak, then they're not going to make good art. Your art probably just shifts. Like I'm in a very beautiful, nourishing, delicious relationship. And I haven't been able to create as many good comedy reels lately because I'm so fulfilled in so many ways. I don't really have all this constantly flowing in content here, but I have all this other direction. It's like our art shape shifts. But when it comes to things like fear of rejection and scarcity and hopelessness, I'm a very big fan of slowing down to feel the shape of something. Feeling the shape is the huge piece of what I teach with my group programs, the shape. So it's kind of hard to pop in and be like, the shape, because it takes time to really understand the shape of things. But all energetics have a particular shape. And a lot of times the shape is held in your body. So let's say somebody who, kind of going on a tangent, but I'll make my way back. Somebody who was raised by parents that were manifesting sickness. Like, let's say mom always found a way to manifest her own illness because she needed to be taken care of. Mom needed everyone to be looking after her. That's a very legit ancestral wound that can be passed down, is that I need to be sick in order to be loved. Let's say mom who does that has a daughter, and daughter is raised to think I have to take care in order to earn my place of love in my family's life. She'll grow up with a shape. She will grow up with a particular shape that you can feel in her body the minute she walks into a room. And people, let's say she dates men, a man will feel, oh, this woman will take care of me. If they're conscious and they've been doing their work, then it's going to be a man that's like, ooh, I want a devotional woman. And this woman's taking the shape of, she wants to take care of me. If they are not conscious, she could attract a man that's like kind of an energy vampire. I need a woman who's going to dote on me, love me. I'm going to take advantage of that. I'm going to milk that for what it's worth. And then she's going to be like, yeah, I'll do that. I'll do that. I'll do that. I'll do that. Anything to be loved. So that's the unconscious level. These shapes, this is kind of a dramatic example, but I'm saying this because whatever beliefs you've been holding, you are omitting that constantly. And so if you are walking around with, let's say, scarcity, or let's say particular flavor of trauma or a belief around something, it's held in your physical energetics. And the only way that you're able to unwind that, perhaps take a new shape, move in a new direction, is to create something with that. Maybe it's creating a shape. Maybe it's an embodiment practice that you do consistently for 30 days. Maybe it's something that you perform. Like it's a sacred theater piece that you open up and reveal and show. Maybe it's a book that you write. Maybe it's a piece of art that you make in music. But when we don't enact, we don't know. We cannot know the shape that we have been taking all of our lives if we don't enact it in some way. Is this making sense so far?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Yes. So I'm giving a couple different ideas with this of how do we enact something. In my specific partnership, we are big enactors. We will, let's say if we're going through something that is particularly challenging, like let's say I'm holding some students and some stuff is coming up, I might need a moment to be witnessed by my beloved in a full embodied temper tantrum. It's like full out screaming fit, saying all the profanities that I would never want to be filmed, but just like giving myself permission to fully go there, touch the darkest, deepest place I can. And then afterwards, I normally feel pretty great. And afterwards, I'm able to be like, okay, here's where she's right, or here's where he's right. Here's where I could improve. Here's how I want to, own these pieces with them, have a clearing call. But I normally can't get to that place of consciousness, of like grounded wisdom in the mama in me if I haven't really touched maybe the girl, like the bratty temper tantrum, full out, give no fucks, just this isn't fair. Experiencing that shape leads to the refined conscious shape, the one that I want to present.
Yeah, this is so good. So I feel like this is so revolutionary because we judge the crap out of those aspects in ourselves. I think we're so scared of them. We're so scared of what we make them mean, or what society has made those aspects of ourselves mean. If being angry, or I know for so long when I started this work, it was like this fear of, but I'm going to manifest more of it because I'm being the vibration of it. And I don't want to, I don't want to do that. And, or sometimes I experience this with clients is like, I don't want to go into it because what if I can't get out of it? That fear of the darkness, the depths, the shadows consuming us. And what do you say to people that are first coming into letting themselves express these aspects of themselves?
Yeah, well, firstly, I really spend time pointing out that anything you are neglecting is fully alive in you. It is probably the most alive thing. Probably the strongest part of you is the thing you're neglecting. So it's controlling in some way, shape, or form. And for as long as we're not consciously choosing to step into it, it is making us, it is choosing us. Every single day, it's a battle that you have to face. And there's a really big piece, particularly, I think, for women, where we get to say, you know what? Instead of anger being thrust upon me, I'm going to choose to step into it. I'm going to create a container of time, space. I'm going to go into that container. I'm going to go full out, and then I'm going to bookend it with, thank you, anger. And I'm going to step out of it and return back to myself. I really highly recommend bookends, particularly for my clients who struggle with depression or not really having big energetic agility quite yet, is to say, I am now emptying out everything that is Madelyn, and I'm stepping fully into everything that is anger. Do the whole thing. I am now releasing and emptying out everything that is anger, and I'm fully returning back to everything that is Madelyn. So really bookending it to give someone that physical container through the vocal cords of an incantation. This is what is happening, body. I'm not going anywhere. I'm just emptying out for a second to be full of something else. And then afterwards, very important, you allow yourself to come fully back in and you empty out of all of that. But it's really, really crucial, even if it takes a bit of time, for people to start to see themselves as the entire universe in their one body. And I mean entire. Everything you see on the news that's awful, it's in your body. Everything that's unjust, it's in your body. Everything that is beautiful, it's in your body. Everything that is holy and righteous, it's in your body. All of it. So those moments where we have judgment, maybe you are not going to do something in your actions, but it lives inside of you because we're all from the same source. There's a really great documentary called The Push that I think is so helpful for people to watch if they still think that they would never XYZ. Well, I'd never do that. Well, I would never do that. You know, it's those thoughts that keep anchor controlling you, and you're probably the most dangerous person in a room. You know, with the one who has that judgment that they would never do that, that they don't actually know their darkness enough to be a safe, grounded space. It's the good guys, you know, that often make a lot of women feel cautious and nervous. It's not the ones that are doing the warrior's work. It's the ones who are very, very like, I'm a good guy. I'm a good guy. I would never do that. I'm a good guy. Because they don't know that part of themselves. How do you protect your family if you're not willing to kill? If you haven't done that work to be able to face the one in you who would kill, doesn't mean you kill, but you face the one in you who's capable of that. If he hasn't done that at all, you stepping into that space that that man is providing for you, it's kind of like, okay, I've got to hold myself though. You know, I've got to really hold myself because I don't know if he has that within him to, not to say he can't learn, of course he can learn, but for the women who have experienced being in partnership or dating men with that very strong good guy archetype, you can sense it in your own body. But anyways, I was leaving the thing about The Push. The Push is a documentary about man does this experiment to see if he could get someone to commit murder. And it was this experiment they did, I think, with 3 or 4 different people. You only watch one specific person's journey. At the end, they'll show you the other people's that they recorded. But they used science to put into place all these different things that would be a domino effect to the very last scene where this man is being pressured to commit murder. A regular dude, regular guy, just like a guy that you would see at the grocery store, just one of those regular guys. And it's fascinating. And I think this is a great documentary to watch because you can really see the circumstance start to build and build and build. And you can feel like what's happening in his own nervous system that's leading him into a state of fight, flight, freeze, panic, fear. And when we get into that primal body, that's when we really start to understand just how much the universe lives inside of us. And it's a humbling experience. And we don't have to face that every day because we live in these nice and tidy homes, many of us in very safe places where our life is catered so that we don't have to be in those animalistic primal states, but it's there. And I think that's what's so scary about apocalyptic movies and times, because we start to feel the part of ourselves that would be crazy and feral like that to survive. It's in our bodies. And so this is why we ritually enact these parts of ourselves, because there are these little tiny moments where these pieces get to come to life. In a fight with a loved one, in a fight with our mom, we start to say things we don't mean. If we don't know that part of ourselves, the things that we say that we don't mean are a lot more sharp or jarring than they actually could be if we just begin to create a relationship with that part of ourselves somatically, so we can feel when it starts to teeter into that territory of not niceness, and we have a relationship with it somatically, and we know how to back it out or how to take care of ourselves, to go take some time and space to have a temper tantrum, to come back into grounded consciousness.
I think like highlighting what you said, like to ritually do that is everything, the bookends, the container. Because I know when I first started playing with this, there was this aspect of like, yeah, I can be untamed and I can express myself, and it gets real messy really quickly. But that's part of the learning curve too. So you're like, oh, wait, like I'm just spewing this onto somebody else now. I'm not conscious. To me, that was like the first level in something of always
Right.
being the good girl and the people pleaser. It's like, I just wouldn't do that. And then especially like my sweet husband started, he's like, where was happening? And it's like, well, I'm
Mm.
allowed to be angry. Like, that's okay for me to be angry. And he's like, Enneagram
Mm.
9 peacekeeper. And he's like, what the fuck is
Mm.
happening?
Mm.
um, and so learning to, gosh, it's so hard in those relationships that like we've all like that we are so like our oldest relationships. I feel like it's also the hardest.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. Exactly. And
it's
I
so
just want to,
conditioned.
yeah, I want to say one piece on this because
Please.
not directly to you, because I hear what you're saying about this being a step, but it's something that I experience a lot of times in my students when they are a little bit, learning how to express. So sometimes
Yeah.
what you're saying exactly, it's a stepping stone to get to a place of that sovereignty of not spilling it out. But there's a really big kind of pandemic happening with women saying like, I want a man who can hold all of me, and I want to just express and express and express. And you know what? I will never choose to express my anger at my partner ever. And I think that's a place where people get confused. Not you, again, I'm not saying this you just shared the story, but it's just reminding me of others that
Yeah.
have heard about expression and then just immediately thought like, I just want to freely express all the time. And that is a form of the feminine without the container setting, the consciousness, the width of the masculine. It's just purely expression. And one of the things I like to point out as a visual for people who are trying to learn how to be true to themselves in their feelings without hurting people is that there is one way that you can reveal, and that is like sideways, like, fuck, my heart hurts. This is so painful. I can't deal. I don't know how to do relationships. Even saying, like, you can even say, you did this and it hurt me. So it's like you're pouring out your emotion to your side. Maybe you're offering up to God rather than directly into somebody. This is called projection, not expression. You did this. You made me feel this way. How fucking dare you? It gets sharp and it like, it's energetically, it's moving from my body into your body. And so it's no surprise that then people's shields pop up to guard, because now all of a sudden there's this very powerful stream of quote expression that's going into their body that people have to literally start to put up a guard so that they don't take it in. So it's important that we learn the art of sideways expression or even up to God expression rather than projection expression, where we put it onto someone and make them wrong. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm angry and I don't know how to hold this myself. So I'm going to put it into you and make you wrong for making me angry. The other way to be is I'm angry. I'm going to fucking own this because the universe lives inside of me. I have no reason to put this into you or project it onto you. I'm just going to pour it out to the sides and I'm going to reveal it because I'm a woman who's devoted to revealing and loves revealing. Will you watch? Then just asking them, will you watch me? And so then you can reveal to them, but it's this offering up rather than a putting into them.
Yeah. Oh, I 100% was doing that. I
Mm-hmm.
absolutely, because I didn't get this like,
Mm-hmm.
honed, refined version of doing this. And so I'm so glad you went there. And now I'm thinking like how we can do this with our calling, what it is that we're creating in the world is like, can I even like sideways express my insecurity and my fear rather than pouring it into like, what if this dream doesn't work? And what if I don't make it? And I'm like projecting onto the dream. And it's like, what if I just dance and express this fear of being this visible for a little while?
Yeah.
That feels really fun to play with.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's like you're literally creating more space. You are the creator and the artist of space. And it's normally, no matter what it is in our life, it's normally not the thing. It's not the thing. It's everything around the thing. It's the meaning we give the thing. It's the thoughts we have about the thing. It's the somatic experience we have with the thing. So the thing is actually distraction from our feelings about the thing. Our feelings are what we want to work with. even the stories to some degree. I suggest people don't get too locked into the stories. That's why I don't really do any kind of hmm, yeah, I mean, I definitely help people unpack their stories, but then we go into the body with the feelings that come up. We don't want to spend too much time in the stories around the thing, but really feeling like if there's a fear of visibility, there's a fear of coming out into the world, just totally putting it to the side, the thing of going into the world and really feeling where in my body does this live and what's the shape that it takes? Like, is it curled up into a ball? Does it have like, almost broken old fingers? Does it have jagged teeth? Is it like a collapse on the ground? What is that shape? And really just being in the shape and feeling what that does into your feelings, enacting, ritually enacting.
And do you find after doing some work with that in kind of a set held container, then you come back to the thing? Do you feel like things shift without having to get into the stories?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, we don't even go back to the thing because the thing's not even a thing anymore. So there's really no need for circling back. It's like we go into the things around the thing and then let the somatics work their magic. Let the body actually begin to shape shift from knowing that expression, knowing that feeling. It just kind of does its own thing. The body is magic in that way. Energetics are magic in that way.
Yeah, absolutely. I wish I would have started with this, and maybe I'll even edit this a little bit and put it at the beginning. Can you find some words that are like non-gender specific or non-gender conforming for those listening that are like, I can't relate because you keep saying feminine or masculine or man, woman?
Feminine masculine is not gendered. Feminine masculine is not gendered in any way, shape, or form. And when we say feminine, what we're speaking to is literally energy. The feminine is energy. It's the atoms that are vibrating in your body right now. The feminine is color. The feminine is personality. The feminine is, in my lineage, yang, not yin. Yeah. It's yang. So it is, it's the ocean instead of the ocean bed. Like it's moving. It's the stars that are in the galaxy. The masculine is not energy. It's consciousness. It's everything without it. So it's basically the part of you and your spirit that has never, ever, ever changed. Ever. You and how you relate to you is the feminine, not because you're a woman. It's because you have personality. Same thing with your partner. If you have a partner, whoever they are, their personality, their likes, their dislikes, all feminine. And the masculine is the part of them that is nothingness. When you're on that exhale of your breath, you have an inhale, exhale, you linger at the bottom of the exhale, that's your masculine, nothingness. You're out of breath. And I think it's important for all of us to feel included with these words rather than let the words go. I'm always going to be a stand for these words because they're a part of life. It's goddess, it's God, and it's non-gendered. When it comes to saying man and woman, yes, that is obviously gendered. But the feminine and masculine is with every single person. And to deny ourselves of that is to deny ourselves a piece of the cosmos that's just naturally. I think the things that the ways that we have as humans put stories to the genders is what goes, or assumptions.
That's where we get stuck. Yeah.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
Female, male, what do you check off on the form? And so to us, I feel like we've just become to equate feminine means woman, masculine means man from those definitely, but having to like retrain that understanding of those words.
Yeah. And there's so much there's so much in my work that people can go dive into if they want to read more about this. There's also a difference in the feminine and femininity. That's different. Femininity is a word you will never hear me say. The feminine is, but femininity is what we've created around female. Femininity is the behaviors of women, how we are supposed to, it's like the quote art form of being woman, to look this way, act this way, appear this way. That's femininity. That is not the feminine again. For anyone that wants to go deeper into this, go study Tantra, not Neo Tantra, not Neo. I mean, you can, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about classical Tantra from India. This is where we can really get into Kali and the ferocity and how she can be destructive and also creative and how that is feminine. We're not talking about Kali as woman. We're talking about Kali as goddess, creator and destroyer. And then we have Shiva, who is the masculine archetype, but he is also creator and destroyer and time and space. And so we can, I believe, heal a lot of those wounds that people have around this feeling excluded by going into these ancient texts that created this long before we, started walking about saying like femininity and masculinity, like creating these made up assumptions about how we're supposed to be. Those texts and those stories hold a lot of juice for us to learn about consciousness and energy.
Well, I think it's super helpful. Thank you for like going there with me a little bit. And I think I really will put this earlier on in the podcast so that people can feel included and find themselves in this. And because the whole thing that we've spoken about so far is expression, for everybody to feel like they are allowed to find that expression within them. Because how many people feel like I'm not supposed to express, I'm not supposed to have emotions, So I think that's important.
Yeah, if you don't think you're supposed to express, you're denying energy. Like you're denying energy and consciousness. The expression is your energy in motion, emotion. So if you're denying the ways that you're supposed to express, it's like denying source moving through you. And that makes people lethargic as fuck. That makes people depressed. It's the denial of energy that's trying to move through you that creates a lethargic nature that makes you heavy and depressed and weighty. So we want to start to cultivate life force again. Life force is creativity, it's sexuality, it's anger, it's elation. This is your life force. And those who are denying these sources of life force normally will go into these seasons of just feeling really low. And isn't it ironic? It's like people don't want to get lost in anger, so they shut off their life force and then they get in low vibration. That's how we get into low vibration. It's by not being in that ecstatic state of all the emotions, including anger and happiness.
Yeah, this is so good. I want to talk to you for another hour, but I know we have about 10 minutes. So with that, I think I do want to go to what was the catalyst for me reaching out to you, which is a newsletter that I read of yours where you shared your intention. And you said, this year, my intention is to deepen my practice of devotional partnership. And you said, it's new for me to prioritize home life. You're no longer as driven to build. And while you are still creating deep, expansive offerings, that these offerings must work in sync with your home life. And he said, I'm gosh, my compass is the lens of family. I have an interest in cooking. I'm thinking more about growing a baby, and I'm thinking more about growing a baby than growing a following. I love that phrase. And I had literally like the week before sent out a similar email to my list, except I think at the end you wrote like, and I'm all about this. And to my list, I was like, I am in such resistance to, I feel like my word of the year is like home and roots. And my identity for so long was wrapped up in build and the external. And that was true for that season of my life. But there's been such identity shedding and but I find myself like really paying attention to my feet on the floor in my kitchen, and I want my kitchen to be the sacred temple of my home, and I'm feeding my babies and coming out of some postpartum depression and just really feeling like this is it, the roots going down, creating down instead of out. And permission. I just feel like we don't talk, like that's not sexy. We don't talk about that. So anyway, anything that you would like to share about what's been coming up for you? Because we're in March now and what this is looking like.
Wow.
And
Yeah. It's I was curious what email you were going to read. And that one, it's feeling continually very alive for me. I'm doing business, but I'm starting to think in terms of how do I set my business up even more so that I am physically not needed as much, which is kind of a fun, creative part of me is how do I start to, for the time that I am using to work on anything, do it in such a way that it's sustainable without my presence so that it continues to run. Because the way that I've done all of my businesses, everything is live and I'm involved in everything, so much of my energy, because I love to hold group spaces and containers. But pretty much everything I'm doing until this point is in efforts to create more spaciousness for my family. I'm very devoted to that. And me and my partner are next 3 to 4 or 5 months, we're hoping for pregnancy. And so I have this period of time that I'm just really devoting to my health. Like, again, like my email, I'm caring more about cooking and taking my herbs and being outside and taking care of my body than I am about making things to put out, to sell, to build, especially building. It's like I will always put out things to share and classes and courses and videos because I find that to be life force generating. But the things that are life force draining, those are the places where I'm starting to get very clear, which includes specific aspects of my business. I'm starting to go like, okay, I've done this now for 5 years. And it's actually no longer conducive for my energetic body and the mother I want to be, because I want to have so much energy for arts and crafts, and like just being available and just being, not going to say a good mood, but just to be less drained by outside forces, so to say. And it's been going really beautifully just to be nourished in my home with me and my partners and my partner in the way that we have been over this past year.
It's so beautiful. Well, I wish you all the best in that, creating human life and the transitions of that. So I have a friend who I did my priestess training with, and who actually did was with you at Burning Man and got to play with you. Yeah. And we met up yesterday and I was chatting about meeting you, and she was like, I have a question for you to ask her. And then I thought it actually might be a really good segue into your offering for the audience, actually. But she's spending a lot of time by herself right now, doing a lot of writing, and is allowing herself to read a lot of erotic literature and really feeling into this mythic life and all of these things. She was like, how do I actually bring that into this mundane life when it's me sitting in front of a computer screen by myself for days on end? Yeah, I can say more words, but I don't think I need to.
Yeah, I mean, this is my life's work. So I have got an entire book on this called Artist of Love. And it includes a whole section on how are you an artist of love with the self? Because no matter if you're in partnership or you're by yourself, it's like a cycle. It's like we create art for ourselves, which leads to creating art for other, which then leads to creating art for the world. And sometimes we have an experience putting something out in the world that then creates a ripple effect of needing to go back inward. So there's this beautiful kind of season of creating art. And there are these ways that we design ritual for ourselves whenever we get into these periods of, kind of hunching over and going to town, working on a project. How do we make that a very artistic experience through ritual, through devotion, through comedy, through feeling what's moving through our body somatically and moving that upwards and out or inwards and down, the direction of the art that we take. So This is a good segue into what I have to offer. I have a program called Creativity and Love that I will probably wait until 2025 to do again. But that program is all around, it's 4 months of learning how to be creative in your love life. Many of the women are single, some are in partnership, some are dating, some are celibate. And we, I've been doing this now for a couple of years. And in the process of these programs, I've started this list of all the ways that I wanted to offer to them. These are some of the bulleted ways you can be an artist in your relationships. You can bring more spontaneity when you're bored on a date. You can bring more play when you and your partner just keep going into these heady states. You know how to bring eros whenever you're lacking polarity and turn on. It is such an underestimated skill in partnership to know what ingredient you need and how to bring it. Those are two different components and pieces that are really important for long lasting relationship, because you're going to have periods that are boring or are mundane or are lacking chemistry. If you're really stepping into being an artist of love, you can recognize those moments and gift something to change the direction should y'all need that. So I have this list of 50 different ways to be creative in love that I've been working on for several years. And this was only for my Creativity and Love women. And now I'm like, oh my God, this is an amazing offer. So I've just decided to start on podcasts here and there to offer this. And you have to get the book if you want to read more about how to do all the things and the methodology of being an artist of love. But this is just a pure list of 50 different ideas you can start implementing in your dating or your relationship now, both of them. And you'll kind of fine tune and see what's more for dating, what's more for relationship, what's both. And I recommend people find one thing, because it can be overwhelming to see 50 different things. Choose one thing and give yourself 3 days to apply it, 3 days to do it, and just see what happens. See how it kind of ripples into their energetics. Like, does it delight them? Does it inspire them? Does it make them lean in deeper and closer and just want to like grab you? Because normally there's some kind of ripple effect. That's what art does. And what we're going for is more intimacy. So that's my deepest desire and hope for this with people who give it a shot.
Okay, well, thank you. We'll definitely link to this and to your website and Instagram so people can find you and follow you and get the book. Gosh, I just have to say this. It might seem weird to say, but I'm in awe of the wisdom that comes through you. I feel like you should be 30 years older than you are. I don't know if that's weird.
Thank you.
But no. It just feels like such gnosis, like just comes through you. And it's been a gift to sit with you for this last hour. And I thank you for all that you're sharing.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I was very excited when you reached out because I felt like with your background, this would be different and fun, and you would get it. You would get like some of these different avenues, and it's been really sweet to connect with you. And I'm grateful for all your beautiful questions, and thank you for your sweet and kind words for me. I really appreciate that.
Yeah. Thank you so much.